Welcome to Inside Startup Investing, the only podcast where you can invest in every guest. On this episode, I will be speaking with Caroline Strzalka, co-founder and CEO of Overplay. Overplay sits at the intersection of gaming, the rise of the creator economy, and the revolution of AI. In short, imagine a world where any video you watch on social media or online could be created into a short minigame by you, the user. That is exactly what Caroline and her team at Overplay are building. A few things that stood out in this episode for me were first, while I am neither a huge gamer or social media guy, one can't help but look at the incredible growth we are seeing in the gaming sector, as well as the rise of the content creator economy with things like TikTok unleashing a whole generation of creators to the tunes of billions of creators globally. Overplay is one of those stories that could very well end up like a TikTok. For advertisers, they are salivating at the opportunity to work with Overplay because they have created a platform that enables people to interact with content, and all of their engagement metrics and beta testing are over the top. Lastly, Overplay is one of those apps that, at least for me, I go, dang, I wish I had thought of that. Think about being a 15-year-old who loves sports and now being able to take that slam dunk by LeBron or that home run by Aaron Judge and turning it into a mini game where you could be the one directing LeBron James or Aaron Judge as he runs around the bases without needing to be able to code and then share that with your friends. When I saw the sports application, it clicked for me that gamers are going to fall in love with this. So with that, let's get on to the show and welcome Caroline. Caroline, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So for those who don't know you, tell us a little bit about your background and how you came to found Overplay.
Sure. So I came from Sesame Street. I have my Sesame Street mug that I always drink out of every day. I ran digital media business development at Sesame Street, and that's actually where I met my co-founder, Dan, who ran interactive production. And Dan and I made awesome, cool content for kids, interactive content, AR, VR, console games, Sesame's very first apps. I did all the streaming deals with Netflix and YouTube and Hulu. And basically, we combined all of this stuff together, our background in video, in gaming, and we get the baby of Overplay. But prior to that, though, too, I was an investment banker. I used to take companies public. So I have this kind of background from Wall Street. I went from Wall Street to Sesame Street, and it's one of these things where it's kind of like I feel between me and my co-founder Dan, we have this unique and a little weird background around media, children's interactive, and also banking. To really kind of push forward with what we believe will be a decacorn of Overplay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Super interesting background. So first off, coming from Sesame Street, let's talk a little bit about synergies between Sesame Street experience and now Overplay. Oops, sorry, did I cut out there?
Yeah, you cut out there for a second.
Okay, no worries. So let's talk a little bit about synergies between Sesame Street and now Overplay.
Sure. There's so many. There are so many. I think, so Overplay kind of came about because Dan and I were always thinking about how do we make our content go further. At Sesame, it's very expensive to do live action. And so we were always thinking about, well, how can we make this video? How can we create this long tail? We paid so much money, can we clip this up, make it interactive? How do we do that? So we're actually solving for a problem that we actually had at Sesame, and that you can talk to any content creator, talk to the folks at Nickelodeon or even at Netflix. And they're trying to think about how do you make this very expensive content go further? How do you get fans to engage more? On Sesame's side, it was like, well, how do we create new moments for kids to learn from this content? And so, we created something that we had actually wanted as professionals in the field. So basically, Overplay was an extension of that.
can you tell us a little bit about how you all are utilizing kind of AI to enable this new platform?
Absolutely. So we're doing this in three ways. The first way, as we always kind of call ourselves, we're like TikTok for gaming. So if you think about TikTok, where it's serving up to you the right video for you, personalized, and we're going to be doing the same thing with our games. So you're going to get games that are served up to you that are in your interest area, in your niches that you might be really interested in. So maybe you like games about dogs and cats, or maybe you like games about basketball, or maybe you love tapping games that that are about journey songs, whatever. This is what Overplay is going to be serving up for you. So that is the first way. The second way, which is something I'm super, super excited about, is that AI will serve as a creative assistant in helping you make your own games. So most of us have never made games before. I never made games before prior to Overplay. But what's going to happen is that you're going to be able to select your video that you want to gamify, upload it onto Overplay, choose your inputs, your taps, your swipes, whatever input that you want for that for the user to input into your game. And then you're going to be able to add in sound effects, interactive animations, responsive overlays, music, everything that's fitting for your game to help you personalize it. But rather than going through this whole trove of sound effects and animations, what's going to be served up to you is that content that you can add in that's relevant for your game. So if you're making a basketball game, you're going to have sound effects and animations that are relevant to basketball. And so this is something that's going to be really, really cool. So it's not like we're handing our creativity over to the machines who are then going to make it for us. No, what's going to happen is that with Overplay and AI, it's going to be an assistant. So it's going to be like, oh, you might like these sound effects. Why don't you choose from here? So it's just going to help you make games faster and more easily than it would if you had to like dig through all that stuff on your own. And then the third way, which also I'm super excited about, and this is like more forward looking, is that our patent does actually cover for gaming on top of live events. So that would be combining Overplay with computer vision. So where you would have, say, a Formula One race that's happening right now, and using computer vision, we'd all be able to compete against each other, but actually see what our drivers are actually seeing in the race that is happening right now. So we'd be driving along with them, but also see what's happening from inside the car. So that's using computer vision. And that's a little bit more forward thinking, about a year and a half from now, but that's also AI.
I have so many questions. So, Overplay, are you downloading this app specifically to find games and also create games within it? So is it all-encompassing platform?
That's right. Our app for both iOS and Android is you can make games and you can also play games. And so you can explore games that are made by other people about like any topic area, or you can try making games on your own. But one of the cool things that we're doing around making games on your own is that we're gamifying the game making process. So like it's going to be fun to actually make a game. And so right now, if you look at Roblox or other platforms like that, which we actually do love, and they're just very different from ours, it takes a long time and you have to know how to code, and it's a lot of effort to make like a Roblox game, like a really good one. But to make a really good Overplay, it should take only a few minutes.
Is a more simplistic way to think about this is almost a TikTok for mini games? Is that a good way to think about it?
That's exactly right. We're talking like 30 to 45-second games. That's like the sweet spot. So it is kind of like TikTok length. And yeah, snackable games. These are games that you can play while you're waiting in line at the supermarket, or you're trying to pass time. You're on the subway, and you could just like flick through and play games about anything.
Let's talk about a few game examples. I know you have some sports media rights, but if you could give us, 2 or 3 examples of different types of games that you've already seen be developed.
Yeah, so let me just actually pull up Overplay here. So yeah, this is basketball highlights reel, and what's next? Oh, this is like a punching game. Oh, that's a oh this was oh this was a game from Sesame Street. So Sesame Workshop, the electric company, we actually gamified a TV segment, POV motorcycle racing. Drumming along with Eye of the Tiger. Yeah, lots of basketball. So people have submitted all sorts of stuff. What is this one? Oh, Skibbity Toilet. Everybody knows Skibbity. So this was a gamified Skibbity video. So yeah, and also just people doing dance challenges. It literally could be anything. Car
So now
racing.
for people who are
Yeah.
just listening, right, can you talk me through
Yeah.
one of these games, like the basketball one? What would someone do within that game?
Sure. Yeah, so with this particular one, let's see. I believe this is just going to be a. Okay, this is going to be a shooting game. So, hold on a second. We put a little ad in front of this one with one of our partners. Oh, here we go. Okay, so you're
Yep.
tapping and swiping. So tapping as he bounces the ball, and swiping as he gets it into the basket.
Got you.
There you go. And you're being rewarded for how accurately you're putting in the inputs. So how accurately you're tapping as he's bouncing, and how you're swiping as he's throwing the ball into the basket. And you're getting points. And I know you can't hear it because my speaker's not that great over here. But there's music. You could hear the basketball bouncing. It's basically it's gamifying a video. So now, and then we found that people are playing the same game over and over and over again to get the high score. But these are like games that you can make games about like your family, your friends, like you'd be going to the park and make a game. And you could also share that games within a closed environment, just with your family and friends, or you could just like publish it out into the world if you want.
Mobile gaming is certainly a massive category. Talk to me about kind of mini games within the mobile game segment. How big is that? What does the opportunity look like?
It's a huge opportunity. It's interesting because Overplay is this like, we're in the center of like three really huge markets right now. So it's streaming video, it's mobile gaming, and then it's advertising, right? So we're kind of like in the middle here. It's a $500 billion market. Goldman Sachs came out with their creator economy report last year, which was, kind of put this once again at $500 billion within the next 2 years, basically. So this is huge, and Overplay is where it all meets in the middle. So it's kind of like a new form of media, where now like anyone can take a video and turn it into a game. But it also, I mentioned advertising, because if you think about now how advertisements can now be gamified, they could be interactive, but in a way that feels very natural and really fun. You might not even realize that it's an ad. So it's a whole new way for brands to interact with new customers, for creators to interact with fans, and then also for people just to like communicate. Like I mentioned, I had never made a game like on my own before prior to Overplay. I don't think I could make a Roblox game, but I could easily now make a game of my nephew jumping on a trampoline, like a swiping game. In fact, I'm mentioning that because I did do that. And I shared it with my family. And that game alone had over 200 gameplays just within my small family unit. Because it was so fun. My nephew has never been the star of a game
Right.
before, right? And so now, like, we could all be game creators now. We could all be stars of our own game. It's about like, I don't know, it's a form of self-expression that we've never had access to before. So I'm like super excited about that, because we're like tapping into creativity that like people never thought that they could make a game before, and now they can.
Do the creators get to monetize their game and actually make some of the money that you make on advertising?
Yes, so we're not monetizing Overplay yet, but it is coming this year. The first way that we're going to be monetizing is through interactive ads that are happening on our own app. So you're going to be flipping through games, and you'll land on a game that also just happens to be an ad. And so the creators who have their content around that ad will have a rev share. So it's just going to be just like TikTok or YouTube, where the ads that are around that content, the creators are making money from that. And we believe that people will make more money, creators will make more money from Overplay because the engagement around interactive ads is so much higher. So interactive ads are so much more valuable. And the replayability is really high too. So just the what we're finding actually was really neat. So some of our early data is showing that we have overplays have 23 times more engagement than regular YouTube videos, and which is like just astounding. And so we believe that creators are going to want to make more for Overplay than they will from regular video platforms. And then another way we'll be monetizing as well will be from our API that we're going to be rolling out early next year. So the API will be wrapping our technology into like a bite-sized chunk that then could be integrated onto other apps and websites. So an example around that would be that NBA.com could now make playable highlights reels for their own website using Overplay's technology, and then they could actually have ads against that content as well.
Like in Roblox and stuff, you could buy shields or whatever it may be, and they pay money in-game. Is that part of the strategy too, or?
Yeah, in-app purchases are on the roadmap, but I feel that the first way we're going to be doing things is around it's going to be around interactive ads. But yeah, we think that in-app purchases could definitely be something, but it's almost would be more like you play a certain amount of games, or you share this game with a certain amount of friends, or you get a certain amount of points, and now you could get a coupon for you get a discount off of a Monster Energy drink. They realize that you're our app realizes that you're a block away from the Walgreens, and now that you got a certain amount of points for this Monster Energy game, you could go and pick up a free drink or something like that. So I think that there's going to be lots of opportunities for brands to reward and interact, and so it's interesting. I think it's going to be badges and trophies and things like that. So it's a little bit different from Roblox, but the first thing will definitely be interactive ads.
What does traction look like to date, and who is kind of your core user today?
We have hundreds of thousands of app downloads already. We just launched our beta earlier this year. We were on Shark Tank, so we did have that Shark Tank effect where our downloads went up like 2,000%. And we have millions of gameplays already, which is really astounding for us. And so we're learning a lot. We're still in beta. So we're learning, we're growing, we're changing. And in fact, we actually just launched yesterday. So one of our investors is the Adobe Fund for Design. So we just announced yesterday that we have a Overplay add-on for Adobe Express. So Adobe Express is this really cool platform where anyone can easily edit video. You don't have to, it's not part of the professional suite. This is kind of like, for us commoners, it's like a very easy to use. And so now you could easily take the videos that you edited and augmented with AI and port it directly into Overplay, so that way you can make your games. So we just announced that yesterday. We're super excited about it. You could check it out on Adobe Express, the Overplay add-on. We're also announcing next week a new version of our game maker. So it's going to be even easier to make games now. And so we're learning and growing and changing as you do when you're in beta, but it's getting more and more polished. It's actually becoming what we envisioned Overplay will become.
And your core user, is it, I don't know, the first thing that comes to mind is like a young male that's like into gaming, but talk to me a little bit about what your user looks like.
Yeah, it's been really interesting. So it's the TikTok generation for sure. Some people, we have creators who are already making for TikTok. Sometimes sports is a huge vertical for us. So yeah, we have a lot of young guys who are shooting hoops in the backyard or using a GoPro to film their mountain biking POV and they're turning that into games, or lots of drone racing, that kind of stuff. However, we also have like folks who are doing makeup tutorials. We actually got in some cooking games. So it's a lot of creators who are doing the stuff that they would normally make for TikTok. Now they're gamifying it. They're actually even tapping into their portfolio of content and gamifying it. But sometimes they're thinking about the game from scratch. So they're like, oh, you know what? I want to make a tapping game of me drumming to Eye of the Tiger. Let me film this in a different way than I would have for YouTube. Let me film it like maybe from over the shoulder, or let me think about this in a new way. So we actually think that because of Overplay's ability to interact with users in a new way, that creators are actually going to be thinking about the content from the beginning with gaming in mind, and filming in a new way, and maybe thinking about interactivity in a new way.
In terms of thinking about attention, right, there's so many different social medias, and now there's a little bit of a segmenting in that this is gaming specific. So
Yes.
how do you think about, I know you talk about the heavy level of engagement, but that retention and having them come back, and do you have any kind of figures around what that looks like to date?
Yeah, that's one of the things that we're working on. It's a viral loop that we're looking to create between people making games, sharing games, playing games, and then making more games. So it's like this loop. And so one of the things that we needed to do, as I spoke about the gamification of game making, is to make it even easier to make the games, to create that continuous loop. And so this new release that we're having of the new game maker that's coming out next week is kind of like a big part of that puzzle in the continuous loop. And so from there, we're going to be measuring the cycle of game maker to game player to discovery and all of that. And so it's one of the things that we're working on. We definitely attracted a lot of people to download the app and to play multiple games. So far, we're finding that people are at least playing 5 games after they download the app, which is really great, actually. And then when people play a game, they're playing that same game 3.2 times in a row. And so on average, and which is also really great, because how many times do you watch the same YouTube video in a row? Or watch the same TikTok in a row, if you're watching a whole TikTok at all. So we're finding that people are watching all the way through, not just watching, playing all the way through, and then they're playing again and playing again and playing again because they want to get the high score. So it's a different psychology that happens when you play games versus when you just watch a TikTok.
Understood.
Yeah.
As you think about growth strategy, I know you talk about kind of the virality element here, but what are some of the other ways and channels that you'll utilize to grow your user base?
A lot of this is just happening very organically. So we know that creators are looking to give more to their fan base. And so what we found is that we actually did a test with a company called Ampersand. They're the largest parkour creator for YouTube. We did a test video and game with them, and so there was a few parkour creators. They're kind of like jumping through the streets of Paris doing these crazy tricks, and there was a CTA in that middle of that YouTube video where they're like, if you're enjoying this video, you should check it out as a game. There's a brand new company called Overplay where you could turn any video into a game. That's what we did. Check out the link below to play the game. And then they continue on with their YouTube video, and then there's a CTA again about Overplay at the end of that video, and then in the links below you can go right to Overplay. So that video, as I was looking at it last night, had over 24 million views and drove tens of thousands of downloads of our app. And I think that the cost of customer acquisition for that, with that just trial, for that one video that drove all these downloads and plays of that game, I think the CTA was like 2.5 cents or something like
Nice.
that. So working with creators for them to be able to continue to feed their fan base. And the guy who runs Ampersand, Scott Bass, he actually did a whole testimonial for us. You could see it on our WeFunder page. But he's like, yeah, my parkour audience loves this. We want to do more overplays because it drives so much traffic for us. And frankly, I can't wait till we're monetizing and Scott Bass can make like a lot of money from like gamifying his videos. It's
I
really
love
cool.
that. In terms of
Yeah.
the current round of funding, how much are you raising? What are the use of funds? And what are some of the key milestones you're hoping to hit with that?
We're raising a new round of funding currently, both an institutional round and a WeFunder round. And so on the WeFunder, we are hoping to raise around $1.5 million. We're at almost, I believe that we're at almost 675 already raised, which is really great since it's only been a couple of weeks. And yeah, our use of funds, we're putting it towards building the API that I mentioned to you. So the API is going to be that technology where we're now able to have this kind of B2B side of the business, and people are able to tap into our tech and put it on their own website and their own apps. But we're also bringing in critical hires. So we need to bring in like a full CTO. We need to bring in marketing. We haven't basically done almost no marketing yet. And we need to bring in a few new developers. So of course, critical hires. And yeah, we're that's kind of where, and basically getting us to monetization, right? So we raised one round of funding in 2021. We brought the product from a minimum viable product to an alpha. We raised a round of funding last year. We were able to bring the alpha to a beta. Now we're bringing the beta to monetization. So we have these milestones and a clear path to monetization.
Very,
now.
very
Yeah.
cool. Well, Caroline, love the business you're building. I think it's super interesting, playing out a lot of very neat kind of trend lines and right at the intersection of many of them. And certainly seems like you're on a really interesting path. So thank you so much for your time and insights. And to all of our listeners, as always, thanks for listening. If you like what you heard on the show today, you can check out Overplay's offering page on WeFunder that currently runs until July 9th, 2024. And please like, subscribe, and share our podcast wherever you listen to podcasts so more listeners like you can find us. Thanks for listening.